So thank you everyone for joining today. I'm Lisa Palko. I am subbing for Cesar, who could not join us today. So this session will be artificial intelligence and conversational agents. We are delighted to have 4 speakers. So what this will entail is each individual speaker will have about 5 to 6 minutes. If you go over, that's totally fine. We should have enough time because we only have 4 speakers, and then we'll allow for about 2 minutes of questions. So with that, we will start with our first speaker, Eduardo Bungie. Could you pronounce that
Unge.
for me? Okay, thank
Unge.
you. He will be speaking on group parent management training enhanced by artificial intelligence, understanding real world data. So Eduardo, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Okay. So let me see. Can you guys see my screen?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for being here today. This is the work that we've been doing together with Antonio Jaran from Stanford and Felipe Rivera from University of Santo Tomás in Chile. This is a work that's combining my position at Palo Alto University and my position as the founder of Parente. That's a platform that's built for therapists and parents to promote progress between sessions and also to allow us to have better sessions with our clients. And the main character in the platform is Pat, who's the AI agent. The Parente has basically 2 products. One is the parents-facing app, where they get programs and the programs deliver the treatment protocol and in-the-moment support. And there's a clinician dashboard where I can go and talk with Pat about the clients, and I can ask whatever happened during the week, and I can ask for recommendations for what to do during the session. But everything is monitored by the therapist here. It's a combined approach. A little antecedent of the work that I'm presenting is the study that we did on feasibility, in which we deliver only 4 sessions with psychology students plus 8 sessions of PAT. And in those cases, we saw, this was an uncontrolled pilot study, but we saw significant improvements in the externalizing symptoms, internalizing symptoms of the child. And we saw significant improvements in parental depression, anxiety, and stress with large effect sizes and a strong therapeutic alliance with the agent. With that antecedent, we kind of got excited and we said, let's try to do this in a group format. So what I'm going to be presenting is like 2 studies, one that has already been published and the other one is in revise and resubmit. And this is part of the work that was done in Argentina with Dr. Andrea Bari, who was the leading expert running the groups. So the way this combination of group plus AI works is the following. There's a live meeting that's through Zoom, so it's very convenient, in which the therapists assign the clients, the parents, the modules that they need to learn that they have to do with. So between sessions, they learn, for example, how to do special time with your child. And at the following session, they review how the implementation went. And then they get assigned how to do praise with your children. So they practice that between sessions and they review that in the group meetings. It's like a flipped classroom model, but for therapies. And together with these modules that were assigned for the parents can also get in-the-moment support, as I mentioned, and can choose from many other optional modules that were teaching other skills rather than the ones that we had like in the protocol for the groups. So if they have emotional regulation problems and that's not included in the sessions, and can click on that module and Pat will teach me all the emotional regulation skills for parents, for example. So one of the first things that kind of caught our eyes is like the level of engagement. And the average messages sent by week 8 was 726. So this is almost 100 messages per week. And if you think of this, not even at the beginning of a romantic relationship in which passion is at the highest, you exchange so many messages during 8 weeks, right? So this was very shocking for us. Parents completed more than 1 module per week. This is 8 weeks. So it's almost like 9 modules per week. So this is like they are going beyond what we asked them to do. And they completed more than 1 module of more than one in-the-moment support conversation with Pat per week. So, and they use it more than 2 days per week. like 8 weeks, 16 should be the average, right? So basically what parents were getting was triple support that they would get with a real regular program in which they only have one session a week, right? In terms of satisfaction, we measured the NPS, the Net Promoter Score. The NPS was around 76, which is considered excellent. It goes from minus 100 to plus 100. There were very few detractors. And we also asked about the therapy attitude inventory. This is like a very well-known measure in child behavioral problems. And parents were reporting that, first of all, there are 5 answer options. You're only seeing 3 because the 2 that were the most negatives were usually not mentioned. So there was a very low frequency for those. But parents were reporting improvements in their relationship with the child, confidence in their ability to discipline their child. Major behavioral problems that were not related to the program were also improved. And here we have other programs, other personal programs that were not related to the program were also improved. So overall, the satisfaction was pretty high and the progress that they were reporting is pretty high. All this is self-reported, so you need to take it with a grain of salt. And this is a graph that if you see the paper on Therapod, this graph will be similar, right? But this is something that we have seen in all the studies that we've done in AI and mental health. We measure therapeutic alliance. And what we see is that overall the working alliance was as high as the one that you can see in treatments that are human to human, yes? And the most interesting question that we asked to the parents was, what percentage of the progress do you attribute to your presence in the group where you have 2 experts and you have many parents sharing their stories? And what percentage of your progress do you attribute to your chats with Pat? We thought that it was going to be 70% the group, and I'm doing the chats with Pat because the therapists are annoying and they are always telling us to do it. What we found out was that first, the responses were very positive about they liking having the therapist like 24/7, that they were getting useful strategies, that they were getting emotional support and containment of Pat. And in response to the question, we got a 61% Pat, 46% professionals. Of course, this does not add to 100 because it was not a forced choice, right? So you can take this as, oh my God, this means that Pat is better than me as a therapist, but that's not the right way of interpreting it. The right way of interpreting it comes with like the qualitative comments that we ask. The spirit of most of the comments when we ask them, why did you provide this score was, hey, the professionals are excellent. I love them. The groups is amazing. Listening to other parent stories is super useful. But Pat is the one that helps me right in the moment that I need it. And you can't imagine how much I value that. So this is not about one or the other one. It's how can we extend the support that we provide to the parents in this hybrid approach. So conclusions, preliminary findings of this virtual agent and the platform on Parente shows positive results. Parents engage with and appreciate Pat. In the moment support seems to be, in the context of a hybrid model, seems to be a key aspect valued by the parents. Combining AI with mental health professionals has promised to extend the care provided and improve the outcomes of parent-led interventions. So that being said, I think I'm perfect time.
Perfect timing. Thank you.
Good.
So we do have time, a few minutes for questions. We do have one that came through. Elizabeth asked,
to that question, yes, those messages, it is one-on-one. Usually for every message that Pat sends, you have one message from the parents. Conversations that were only one message sent by Pat were excluded. So yes, that is both ways.
Perfect.
About safety guardrails and quality monitoring protocols, of course. We have plenty of guardrails in terms of Pat does not give diagnosis, Pat does not provide therapy to the parents, does not provide crisis intervention. Every screenshot mentions 911, 988. If parents mention something that is problematic, they get a message, the professional gets a message immediately showing which is the message problematic, and you can check it. And we use agentic architecture so that when we deliver the treatment, the agent behaves consistently just in that focus. It does not talk about other stuff. If you say, I want to order pizza, it says that's delicious, but we're here to talk about your parenting skills. And the last one is we have a knowledge base, RAG, where most of the responses are extracted from there. So if you ask, the problem with my child is that he was born in Libra, but will tell you, I'm sorry, I don't talk about the horoscope. We focus more on behavioral interventions. So those are some of the safety aspects.
Great. Thank you so much, Eduardo. I know we're at normal time if we had 4 speakers. I think we're actually missing one. So Sean Kelly, if you're on, could you come off mute and just let me know? I didn't see your name. The only reason I ask is then we will allow the other speakers to have a little bit more time for questions. All right. So I don't think he's on. If there are any additional questions, put them in the chat and we can circle back to those. But we do have our next speaker up, Rani Kumar Raja. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, and feel free to correct me.
You got it.
That's fine. Great. The title is Beyond Single Turn Benchmarks, Trajectory-Based Safety Evaluation for Mental Health AI Using Hybrid Human LLM Assessment. So I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And very happy to present to you all. Rani Kumar Raja, I'm the founder and CEO of Safe Eval, a Secura AI product. And today I'm going to be talking to you about a methodology that we use within our product and platform, which is trajectory-based safety evaluation. Today, hundreds and millions of users are using chatbots. They're typing their darkest moments into the chatbot, thinking the AI on the other side will know what to do. And these chatbots are not tested in the right way. And we have seen a number of issues that have popped up in the recent times. These chatbot building companies are definitely not negligent. The fact is that there are no proper safety measurement standards and standardized tools and guidance to do that at scale. So in order to understand the magnitude of this problem, I would like to take you through what really happens within a real mental health AI conversation. Number one, crisis is never expressed as a single prompt, right? It is always a path. It's a trajectory. It starts as simple as saying, I've been having a rough week, to slowly going into, I don't really see a point anymore. And then the crisis starts to intensify at that point, all the way to something very critical. So what's important here is to be able to identify the crisis as early as possible, where intervention can be made. The second thing I would like to highlight is that a known problem with large language models architecture, which is a hidden flaw, the safety guardrails that we write, right, they hold very firm at the beginning of a conversation. In long form conversations where users are having multiple sessions, there's something called the conversation drift that happens where the model tends to forget. It loses hold of those strong guardrails as the turns go into, for weaker models, around 25 turns, for stronger models, around 75th turn onwards. We see a phenomenon which is well known, which is attention decay, where the model will forget things in the middle, and then that would lead to a lot of safety guardrails becoming weaker. And there are a number of drifts that happen, but here specifically it's a context drift. The third thing that I would like to highlight is that everybody expresses crisis differently. You, me, we speak different ways. We have expressed things differently. So the crisis could be expressed in an ambiguous language. People might become poetic at that point. There could be different ways in which crisis would be communicated to the AI. Has the AI been trained with all those variations? And has the chatbot builder who's building these mental health AI chatbots tested these across these variations is the bigger question. Today, research shows us that most of the chatbots that are there in the market, including the heavily funded, the highly funded, the expensive ones that are popular, they have just done single turn safety checks, right? Single turn safety checks is like asking a question and saying whether it prompts the crisis line, and then they say, yes, it's done. I've seen certain auditing certification companies that are doing the same thing as well and making a stamp saying it is safe. What the research shows is that in long-term conversations, the safety test that they do becomes an illusion. From 85 to 92% safety rate, it drops down to 40 to 50% when you do real multi-turn adversarial test. So these are the issues that we're trying to solve through Safe Eval, our platform, which is one of a kind, where we have thoughtfully combined the FDA guidelines, the various varying levels of state level regulations that are out there, including Utah, Colorado, California, Washington. There are a number of states that have joined, New York. So we have tried to bring in those regulations, create a standard controls taxonomy that is our foundational component of our platform. And we have included a library of 100 plus personas, different multi-turn scenarios, risk scenarios to capture the exact crisis arc that I mentioned to you. And we have an agentic way of testing this. Our agentic evaluation engine simulates these different types of different variations of these conversations. So the multilingual differences that I told you, the persona differences, all of those are captured. There is a safety flywheel that continuously evaluates the performance of our underlying model. And we have, as like I told you, all these controls are supported by the compliance regulations. So we are ensuring that when the safety chatbot builders are using our platform, they are also reducing their compliance costs. So our methodology is like this. So we are testing the safety as a journey. It starts with rapport building to distress to coded language to explicit disclosure. And we employ both LLM as judge mechanisms as well as structured expert review who can override, who can review the LLM's assessment and then give the final evaluation, which then goes into the feedback loop for the model to improve. So with that, I want to say millions of people are using chatbots today, and we have to work together to build a safer AI together. And I really welcome academia, nonprofit organizations which are working towards this cause, and clinicians, physicians who want to join us. Please reach out to me, connect with me. I'm happy to take you further on a demo or anything. But this is going to be a collective effort, and thanks for this opportunity.
Oh, we appreciate your talk. Thank you so much. Any questions? Feel free to come off mute if you want to, instead of typing them in the chat. I, for one, am curious of how you mentioned the multiple states, and so how do you keep up with that?
So we're using AI to ensure that it's continuously monitoring for changes in our state level regulations. We are also connected to certain feeds. Certain organizations are doing that much better than us at this point. So we are tapping into those regulatory feeds, but we also have our own base library. So right now it's not completely automated, but we are trying to keep up by tapping into organizations who are invested in those regulations. Soon we plan to ensure that we can also be dynamically connected, just like those organizations, in ensuring always we have an accurate list of latest bills that have been passed and laws and regulations. So right now we have a base library, but we are working towards making it more automated in the future.
Great. It is ever changing, isn't it?
Yes. The biggest challenge, but yeah, it's an easier challenge to tackle than most other things. Yeah.
All right. If there's no other questions, then we will go ahead and move to our next speaker, Sukriti Ghosh, design and feasibility of a passive smartphone-based eye tracking sensor for AI chatbot delivered mental health.
Yes, awesome. Hello. Let me just
Hi.
get my screen. Get my notes up. Okay. All right. Is everybody able to see my screen? Right.
Yes. Thanks.
All right. So yeah, hi, I'm Sukriti. I'm a PhD candidate at Dartmouth College. out of the Center for Technology and Behavioral Health under Nick Jacobson. And today I'll be talking about my work in designing a smartphone-based eye tracking sensor and also in assessing its feasibility in the background of Therabot, which is an AI chatbot that delivers mental health interventions. So as we all know and are intimately familiar with, there is a need to understand the dynamics of mental health symptoms, especially in natural and real-world settings. One of these types of potential passive signals is actually in eye movements. Eye movements have long been associated with mental health disorders and also gives us a window into things like attention, arousal, and cognitive processing, all of which are domains that are disrupted across the spectrum of mental health. The figure on the right kind of showcases this phenomena, especially in this case with those with schizophrenia, but this type of thing can be seen, like I said, across many mental health disorders. And overall, it really shows, generally highlights why these signals can act as biomarkers. Traditional eye tracking studies that are sort of pictured here usually measure these signals in highly controlled lab or clinical environments. And as we know, that tends to limit generalizability and overall understanding. And so what I'm aiming to do with this work is translate those capabilities to a mobile platform and capture these eye tracking signals in real time, passively, and also during real-world therapeutic interactions. So the eye tracker I designed was built into the background of Therabot, which was mentioned in the keynote address. But just to give a summary, it is a generative AI chatbot that delivers mental health interventions. It's trained on expert curated mental health dialogues, and this kind of gives a sneak peek of the UI of the app. In terms of the eye tracking pipeline itself, it starts with the user interacting with Therabot. And as they're doing that, their smartphone's front-facing camera is capturing frames of their face or images of their face. Users did consent to this process, mainly because, and importantly, we built this pipeline to be privacy preserving. So what that means is that those raw facial images are not being stored or saved anywhere. Instead, what's happening is that the app is immediately extracting these facial meshes. Essentially, what that is just a collection of numerical coordinates outlining the key face and facial features. And then the app is immediately discarding those raw facial images. So again, no images stored or saved anywhere, sent to the cloud, anything like that. We really wanted to make this pipeline centric to privacy. So moving forward from that, from the coordinates, we can grab the eye and iris regions to understand measures related to that, and then do an extra layer of processing on the iris region to detect the pupil. Then in post-processing, we are able to manipulate that raw data to get these related eye measures. So things like blink rate from the outline of the eye, gaze from the iris moving and changing direction, and then also pupil movements from pupil detection. So in terms of feasibility, what we saw during some more recent Therabot trials that we did earlier this year, the pipeline was able to detect faces in 100% of the frames and irises in 99% of the frames, which was a promising first step. But due to what we think is that extra layer of processing required for pupil detection, we were only able to see pupils in 15% of the frames. So I wanted to do a deeper dive into that pupil data just to see if there was any sort of signal at all, any clinically meaningful signal, because it was quite limited. And so what I ended up doing was, because pupil movements are linked to arousal, I correlated pupil measures with emotional and cognitive arousal measures that were actually extracted from Therabot's conversation data. So emotional arousal was coded from language data, and cognitive arousal was coded from keystroke data that I also collected. That includes things like backspace rate and typing speed. And then importantly, I also adjusted these correlations for time of day to try to account for ambience and lighting, since that's a factor in pupil movements as well. So I linked these types, all these different types of data sources, and as you can see, we did find some small but significant associations with both the emotional and cognitive arousal metrics, which is sort of a promising first step for us. Really, this is very preliminary and exploratory work, and a lot more to do in terms of validating this pipeline. But as a first step, suggests overall that with this noisy and limited real-world mobile data, we're able to capture at least some subtle signals during therapeutic interactions. So that's it for me. Thank you. And yeah, I can take any questions or connect outside of this.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was great. So we have a question here. Were the associations between language data and pupil dilation in real time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially what I was doing was taking these 10-second chunks of from the conversations and then correlating with pupil measures during that same exact time. So these are contemporaneous associations. Yes, and in real time.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? And I'll ask.
I have one
Go ahead,
question.
Eduardo. Go ahead.
The app that reads the faces and the eye contact, is it always on, or the clients needed to activate it? I'm sorry if you said it, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, no worries. So there's no extra app. This is just built into the background of Therabot itself. So this is just Therabot as the app, just a different sort of version that I added on my eye tracking sort of software into. And so, yeah, essentially users did have to allow the camera to be on while they were interacting with Therabot, but it's only on when Therabot is up and alive on their screens. So it's not all the time, it's just exactly when they're interacting with Therabot.
And this is not something that applies to all Therabot users, only the ones that participated in your study?
Yes. So that is kind of convoluted because everybody who actually used Therabot did consent to the eye tracking. So we were able to get, fortunately, we were able to get everybody's consent in using the eye tracking. Yeah.
So what are your next steps regarding the pupil?
Yeah, so in terms of pupil, since you know, those associations were you know, sort of interesting and especially negative, I'm aiming to do some lagged analyses to kind of try to understand you know, if there's an association not contemporaneously, but instead with a lagged input, just because pupil movements do happen very rapidly. So maybe what I'm seeing is, you know, the tail end of a dilation or a constriction. Outside of that, I'm actually a little more excited to dive into the gaze data, just because that is not only richer and more since we have, you know, 99% iris signals, but also that has implications for engagement as well with not only Therabot, but other apps that I'm incorporating this into.
Great. We'll expect to see it next year.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to.
All right, wonderful talk. I think we are still missing our last speaker, Sean Kelly. So I will circle back to each of the speakers. If you want to include any other final thoughts from your presentation, feel free. We do have the time. Any additional questions, please put them in the chat.
I can share one update on research that we're doing, but I think it's great that we have more time. Something that I miss from regular conferences is these spontaneous conversations that happen. So everyone feel free to comment or say whatever before I share any updates. I think it's lovely to see many familiar faces, and if anyone wants to add a comment or share a thought, it doesn't have to be a question about the presentation. just the topic that we're working
Yeah,
on.
absolutely. Any Well, I guess you can go ahead.
So I can go ahead and share. We're doing a study that I think is very interesting. What we've done is we shared transcripts of conversations from Pat with parents and transcripts of conversations between a human therapist and parents doing the exact same session, like teaching how to provide effective instructions or teaching how to use phrase, right? And we didn't tell the participants which conversations they were reading. They actually didn't know. There was some deception. They didn't know that there was an AI conversation. And we asked them to rate the conversation. And at the end, we disclose the deception and we tell them, which conversation do you think there was AI? Which conversation do you think it was a human? The first thing that was very interesting was that they had a really hard time distinguishing one or the other one. This is an N of 20. So people cannot distinguish what's a human from what's an AI, at least in this case, not every AI. Then the scores on treatment fidelity and common factors were higher for the AI than for the human. But one very interesting thing that we checked was that when raters thought that they were rating an AI, they were giving lower scores. So regardless of the bias, they were scoring the AI better than the human therapist. When I share these type of things, everyone tells me, oh, so that means that they're going to replace us. No. This is, remember, engagement is very high in the context of a combination. Usually when it's a standalone, engagement drops a lot. But we're working on this to augment the power of the therapist. But it's interesting, like 2-3 years ago, we did a similar study. Treatment fidelity was higher for the AI, but common factors was not. Common factors was higher for the human therapist. And now we're seeing kind of that in both cases, the AI was performing better.
That is interesting. Any questions on that?
I just have a thought to share. I think we always compare humans and AI in a way that people think, oh, AI is much better. But what I'm trying to do in my scope of work is also to educate people that this AI model is trained on the best of best physicians and clinicians. So if it's performing well, it is because it's been trained on the topmost psychiatrist or how they talk, right? So then the AI is going to be at its best. So what they are scoring, when they give high scores for a AI one, because it's reflecting what it is being trained with human data, how a good physician, the topmost physician talks, right? So I think that education is missing in this whole field, where people think, oh, that's why the fear comes. Is it AI going to take our jobs? No, I think it's important to also just sharing this out. This is not to say anything about what you just told. I completely appreciate that research, but that education is very important, so people are able to adopt the change and think about, okay, how can we do it better? How can we work with AI rather than think about the fears that we have?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
All what we're doing is in the context of the combination, right? Again, when we give Pat as a standalone, engagement drops like significantly.
So
There's a
there is
comment.
a question here for Ronnie. Could you share a little bit more on the personas for
Of
how
course.
you train the multi-turn safety concerns?
Of course, yeah. So we have a persona library. When we say persona, it's like a typical different types of people that are categorized by age, by demography, by their personal situation. Like, I'll give you an example. I think I have a slide, if I can bring it up. Do we have enough time to bring up a slide? Can I show a slide?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. This is not a slide I presented today, but I can just share to answer the question here. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So this is an example persona. When we say persona, this is what I mean. So it is Jake, who's 17 years, minor with emerging suicidal ideation, his demographic profile, how he talks, the communication pattern. So we feed all of that to the agentic AI. So it kind of like this, we have a huge library of personas, and that is what is given to our model for agentic testing.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.